I'm a chef at Table Grace Cafe here in downtown Omaha, and I'm going to show you how to make our whole wheat pizza crust, which has a combination of whole wheat, semolina, and flaxseed. It's over 60% whole grain pizza crust. And we're going to start with 8 cups of warm water. And to the warm water, we're going to add a half a cup of sugar and 1/4 of a cup of yeast. And the order that we put the ingredients in the bowl is important here. The sugar and the yeast are going to interact in that warm water, and the yeast is going to tell us whether or not it's working. And you'll start to see bubbles form in the bowl, which you can see happening already right now. And those bubbles just tell us that the yeast is working. And so now that I know that that's all working, I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of our ingredients. The next thing is going to be a half a cup of olive oil. You can use whatever kind of oil you want to use, but I like to use extra virgin olive oil. I think the final result is a little bit crispier of a crust if you use olive oil versus other oils because of the lower smoking point of olive oil. It's a little bit more of a delicate oil, so when you put it in here and you bake it at like 400 degrees or more, you're going to just get a little bit more crisp on the crust. And now we're going to add all of our dry ingredients. And so here we've got 8 cups of bread flour, or high gluten flour, which most pizza crust is made only with high gluten bread flour, but we're using only a portion of that. It's going to add some elasticity and protein structure to our dough, but it's not going to be the main ingredient. So 8 cups of high gluten bread flour, 8 cups of whole wheat flour, and then 2 cups of semolina, and 2 cups of flaxseed meal, ground flaxseed, a tablespoon of salt. Now here at the cafe, we obviously have an industrial mixer, and with this mixer we're mixing our dough for 10 minutes total, and that time, as you'll see as we go along here, is going to be part of what makes this dough what it is in the end. The amount of agitation that the dough gets as you mix it changes the final product. And so this mixer, though, is going to do it differently than a mixer you might be using at home. In fact, if you don't have a mixer at all and you're doing it by hand, it's going to change the final product too in the amount of time you have to mix it. So just take that into consideration, and as you're watching this video, look at the different stages of the dough as we go along, and that'll tell you kind of what you're looking for and what's going to produce the final product as we do it here. So I'm going to start on low speed and then switch it to medium. It's starting to come together, and so at this point I'm going to switch the mixer to medium speed, and the only reason that I wouldn't start on medium was just otherwise flour might fly in my face. So anyway, I'm going to go with medium speed now. And now at this point, we're a few minutes into the mixing, and the dough ball has come all the way together. So we've got basically one big mass of dough. And you can see the dough is really sticking to itself. It's not really sticking to the side of the bowl or the dough hook as much as it's really just one ball sticking to itself. And you'll see that change as we get into the next phase of our mixing. We're at the end of our mixing time here with the pizza dough, and you're going to be able to see that the dough is totally sticky now. It's sticking to the side of the bowl, and it's sticking to the dough hook as well. Get the dough out of here onto a work surface. So on our work surface, we're going to use whole wheat flour again. You know, some of this flour will get incorporated into the dough as we work with it, so that much more whole wheat flour is going to be going into our pizza dough. we've got our dough turned out onto our work surface here, and the number of pizzas that your dough recipe makes is going to basically be determined by the size of your pizza pans, I guess. So just how big you want your pizzas to be, also how thick you want your crust to be. And so at this point, you're dividing your dough up into the number of pizzas that you're going to be making with it. And ours makes 16. So I've got it into a log here. And if you were doing just 2 with your recipe, then you just cut it in half and you'd have your 2. But we're doing 16, so I'm going to start cutting it in half. So I've got the 16 portions. Okay, and then with each of those portions, now I'm going to make dough balls that are literally balls of dough that are roundish, because our pizza pans are round, and we're going to roll them out so that they're about the size of our pizza pans. So we've got one of those right here, and now if you'd like, you can go to the kneading using your hands. The machine, the mixer, did some kneading for us with the dough hook that was attached. And now what we're doing as we agitate this dough is we're toughening it up a little bit, and that's going to contribute to the texture of the final pizza crust. If you don't work with it much at all, if you don't mix it very much or knead it a whole lot, you're going to end up with, especially with whole wheat, more of a tender, even almost crumbly or flaky pizza crust. But we've got enough of that high gluten bread flour in there that this dough is going to have some protein structure to it. When we get done here, it's going to have some elasticity, it's going to have some stretch. So you'll be able to stretch it without it falling apart on you. And then the final product, when you go to eat the pizza, is going to be kind of crispy exterior, chewy interior on the pizza crust. And as I'm kneading here, I'm working with a little bit more of that whole wheat flour, and that's just to keep it from sticking to my hands as I knead it. And the kneading process here is just basically folding part of it towards you. So reaching over to the edge of that pile of dough, folding it towards you, and then pushing that fold back down into the dough ball. And just doing that over and over again. And if you were to feel the difference here now between these ones that I just got formed into the dough balls and these ones that have been sitting here, see how I stick my finger in there and it leaves an indentation pretty much right where my finger was, and this other one doesn't do nearly as much. It actually kind of bounces back. So that's the difference. That's what we're talking about when we talk about toughening up this dough a little bit. Okay, so now we're ready to start the process of rolling the dough, and this is going to be, again, the size of whatever pizza pan you're using, and we're using round pizza pans, so that's what we're going for. The first thing to do is prepare your pan, and here at the cafe, we don't bake our pizzas on the pizza pan. The pan is a mode of transportation for the pizza as it travels from the work surface to the pan and from the pan into the oven, because we use pizza stones to bake our pizzas on. So what I'm going to do to the pan is just sprinkle some cornmeal on it, and that'll keep the dough from sticking to the pan as we transport it. So that's the first step. And then the second step is to roll out your dough. Our dough isn't quite as tough as like a traditional commercial pizza dough is, because again, the whole wheat flour. So instead of using a machine to do this, or even tossing it up in the air, we're using our hands and a rolling pin. And so I'm going to again prepare my work surface with some whole wheat flour, Get a little bit of it on the dough ball and in my hands. I start in my hands, and I'm pinching from the middle to the outside edge of the dough to start with, to get that round shape started. And then once I get that far, I'm going to transfer it down to the work surface, and then use the rolling pin to get it the rest of the way. Rolling in both directions to keep it even and as round as possible. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then once it's about the thickness that you want it, and or about the size of your pan, then you can transfer it to the pan. And then if you're going to do it this way and use the stones, I recommend doing a shake test. Just shake that pizza dough disc down on your pan around on your cornmeal, make sure it's nice and loose. That way you know it's not going to stick. And that's it for that part. Okay, so we've had these pizza dough discs sitting on the pan for 15-20 minutes to let them rise just a little bit more in the pan. And then the next thing we're going to do before we build and bake is dock the pizza dough. We've got a special tool, but you could use a fork and just poke holes in it. Basically, you're puncturing the pizza dough disc now so that when you bake it, it doesn't bubble up in the wrong places. This will let the air kind of get through the pizza dough disc while it bakes. And I'm leaving the very edge of the disc without being docked because it's kind of nice to have a puffy little edge on your pizza when you bake it. So just going once over with the dough docker. And I'm doing it back on my work surface with wholly flour again. Even though, we prepared those pans with cornmeal, I really don't want this to stick to anything, so it's just better when I'm doing shake test again here. It's better to put it back on the board before you dock it, and then put it back on the pan to build it. And I'm going to do 2 different kinds of pizzas now. We're both getting tomato sauce. Here at the cafe, we just typically use plain tomato sauce, although sometimes we'll do something fancy like pesto or something like that. And the amount of sauce is important. If you get too much in ratio to the thickness of your crust, then you're going to have soggy pizza. If you get too little, it's going to be dry or crackery. But all that really is just your personal preference, like how much sauce do you like? And then you kind of have to try it a few times to get it right, probably. And when I build, I again leave the edge of the pizza without anything on it, because that's our quintessential crust and edge there. The amount of cheese, again, is really up to you, how much you like, but take into consideration the thickness of your dough, the amount of other toppings you're putting on it. I like to still be able to see some sauce underneath the cheese in my dough. Today I'm doing one that's classic pepperoni, so when I build, I like to put the toppings over the cheese so that you can actually see what's on it after it bakes. And I always like to build from the outside to the inside, because if you're going to cut your pizza into a typical pie slice, then the outside edge is always the greater surface area of those pieces of pizza. And if you've got pepperoni on the outside edge all the way around, then you know that each piece is probably going to have pepperoni on it after it's cut. Let's get the outside covered, then you can work on the inside. And it's kind of nice if each bite of pizza has some of the top of it. It's a tomato and mushroom. We're using grated tomatoes. Again, working from the outside to the inside. Tomatoes are something that can be tricky, fresh tomatoes on a pizza, because of how wet they are. So you might want to try putting less. If you're putting fresh tomato on pizza, you might want to try putting less if you're soft in the beginning, because these tomatoes tend to give off moisture when you make the pizza. So. Add just a little bit of garlic salt and oregano to my mushroom and tomato pizza. Mushrooms and tomatoes aren't seasoned yet, so this will give them a little flavor. Now I'm going to go into the oven with this. And if you're using pizza stones, then this is the tricky part, is getting them into the oven in one piece. So what we use here at the cafe are these pizza peels. Again, it's a mode of transportation. It's a vehicle for the pizza to travel into the oven. Now I'm going to prepare this with some cornmeal again, just like we did in the end. And then what you want to do is think about moving the pizza as little as possible. So I'm actually putting the pizza where I want it to go, and then I'm moving the pan away from it. By just jiggling it, sliding the pan away from it. Now the pizza is right where it needs to be. So now I'm going to go into the oven with it, and again, I'm moving the pizza as little as possible. I'm actually moving the vehicle as far as I can, and then moving the vehicle away from the pizza. So here we go. Moving our pizzas here at 450 degrees. That's going to take a total of about 5 to 6 minutes. Alright, so these should be done now. And to take these out, again, you want to be careful if you're doing this pizza peel stone method, because there's a danger of pushing the pizza off the back of the stone and messing up your oven. So just be careful, gently just shimmy this thing underneath your pizza when you pull it out. Tomato mushroom. See, we've got a poofy edge to our crust. The cheese is just starting to brown a little bit. And here's our pepperoni. Same thing, poofy edge to the crust, browning cheese. So then what I like to do at this point, before digging right in, is let these pizzas rest for up to 5 minutes before you slice them, and that does a couple things. Keeps you from burning yourself, and it also keeps the cheese from melting back together after you slice it. So, and it's good to use a flat work surface to slice it on rather than the pan, because you can see these pans have kind of a lip on the edge, and your pizza slicer is not going to really cooperate very well with that lip. So when I slice these, I'm going to put them back onto a flat surface again and slice them into 8 pieces. There you go, that's our pizza.